Super Smash Bros. Has nowhere to go but down. What do I mean by that? I mean that they can't just do the same thing over and over and over again and expect this to work. They can't just continue to add in new characters. They can't just bring in a bunch of more third-party representation, people that people have been wanting for years. No, they have to do something different. Reese Riley, otherwise known as Kiwi Talks, said something the other day about a potential Smash Bros. Game being released in 2027, just next year. But what he did not mean was that it was going to be a brand new game. He responded to his own tweet here saying that this could mean anything. It could mean that Melee is coming to GameCube Online or any sort of Brawl port or something like that. It doesn't necessarily mean a brand new game. And I totally agree with him. I definitely don't think we're getting a Smash Bros. Game in 2027. And even if we were, the big problem is that Nintendo cannot do anything right with Smash Bros. Moving forward. There will be controversy and problems. Nintendo cannot go anywhere but down with Smash. And I think that's actually a good thing. I think even though it will cause a lot of controversy, people will be very upset, it's not going to matter. I think it's actually going to be better because it's going to be inherently worse. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you, but first let's look at this hat right here. Cappy from Super Mario Odyssey. Mario's cap is a big part of Mario from that game, from Mario Odyssey. That is a huge deal for Mario, being able to throw your cap, hitting an opponent on their head, and boom, you become that opponent. You essentially capture them and use their abilities to progress. That is a huge and incredible mechanic that would be incredibly hard to replicate in a game like Smash Bros. But it's much better in my opinion than him just punching and then using the flood pack to push people backwards with water. Like, that is certainly cool, but the problem is Mario doesn't seem to have a whole lot of unique movesets from his own games. It just seems to be stuff that they had from the Nintendo 64 that they continue to push in these newer games, while they add in even more and more complex characters with incredible abilities from their own games, and Mario sits back with nothing. Mario's moveset is long overdue for a makeover. He needs to be completely and totally redone. His side B could be throwing Cappy and possessing your opponent for a few seconds, or at least stalling them or stumbling them or doing something somewhat similar to Kirby, where you throw your hat and boom, you steal one of their abilities or take something at random, right? Maybe your down B or your side B or your up B turn into their own, but you don't know which one it is until you try to use it. His final smash could be taking out some sort of a Wonder Flower and making everything around the stage completely different, making everything so much harder for your opponent to even get to you. There are so many incredible ideas that I have and so many more have for Mario, because Mario's moveset doesn't represent who he is in the games. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Punching has nothing to do with Mario. He doesn't throw a punch in any of these games hardly at all. If his side B was just throwing on a Koopa shell instead, that would be so much more fun. But my point here is that every single first-party Nintendo character from those older games that we have seen have their movesets be repeated over and over and over again, need to be completely redone. Use all of the material you have from these brand new games and be able to put that into this game to make their movesets match more appropriately with what their characters actually represent. Sakurai has been so faithful to characters like Joker. I can't even believe I am holding this up right now, but this is an amiibo of Joker from Persona 5. A Nintendo amiibo figure from the game Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is in my hand. He's able to use his little dagger here from the games and be able to slice and dice people up with his little A button attacks. Then for his side Bs, he summons his Persona, Arsene, who comes and is able to use all of his different abilities. Joker is so faithfully represented to where you look at him, you look at those games, and you're like, yeah, his moveset is exactly what I would expect from Persona 5. It's just amazing. How about a character like the Hero from Dragon Quest? This is the amiibo figure that they released for that game. This is a faithful adaptation for everything that he has been in all of his games. He has a sword in which he obviously is slashing people with. His shield doesn't do a whole lot in this game, but he has, as a down B, a menu that pops up with like over 20 to 30 different combinations of attacks and different effects that will be put on your opponents. That is so cool. Even down to more niche characters like Min Min here from ARMS. ARMS was not well received by many people, but it did sell quite a bit of copies, and the game was a first-party addition to the Nintendo Switch in its first year. Min Min got incredible representation to where she is perfect. She is literally the exact form from ARMS into Smash Bros. And of course it helps that that's a fighting game as well, but her moveset is identical to her own game. Even down to the fact that her dragon arm here only comes out after you're able to grab your opponent. It's just genius. Compare that to Link in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Link has a bow and arrow like he does in like Twilight Princess and some of the older Zelda games, Skyward Sword from like 10 plus years ago at this point, 15 years ago at this point. Of course, Link always has a bow and arrow, even in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but some of his abilities could be so much more, could be so much better. Imagine if for his side B or down B or whatever, he's throwing out a huge boulder and it goes across the stage, and then he uses recall to push it back towards him, and it goes from one side to another. And that is just scratching the surface for all of the ideas that we could have for these characters. Link, Zelda, all of them, they need redone. Now, the problem with that for many people is that there's not going to be a lot of characters comparatively to Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's what I mean when I say there's nowhere to go but down. They made that game so jam-packed, and I think it was the right decision. It absolutely was. It was only 4 years after Smash for Wii U and 3DS came out that we got Smash Ultimate on the Nintendo Switch, and only 2 years after they had wrapped up development on the DLC. An insane amount of time for us to only have to wait 2 years technically between new Smash Bros. Content to a new game. Now we're going on to about 8 years since Smash Bros. Ultimate released, and of course we got DLC that led well into 2020 and 2021, so now technically if you want to count that end of content, it's only been about 3 or 4 years, and we know that Sakurai had worked on Kirby Air Riders with his Smash Bros. Team in that game and everything else in that world. That is what they've been doing, so there's no possible way that Nintendo has been developing a Smash Bros. Game up to this point. But if they are going down to make this game again, if they're going to reboot it in some sort of sense, they need to go back to their roots. They have to do something similar to Mario Kart World, where that was a Mario game, a Mario Kart game. This was not a Link Kart, this was not Animal Crossing Kart or Splatoon Kart, this was Mario Kart. So put in some coin coffers, put in a conch door. Don't throw in the Inklings and don't throw in Zelda and all these other characters that they only really threw in because they were just trying to get good PR and get people to buy a Wii U. No, go to your roots, do what you have to do. Nintendo has so many characters that they could include from their own franchises. Now, I'm not saying to throw out the third-party characters. I think at this point they are a mainstay for Smash, but if we had to go back to the roots, I would say focus in on the Nintendo characters first and foremost. And if you're going to bring back the third-party ones, do not put as much effort into them as you do your own characters. Let Mario be the star of the show. Let him be a top-tier character with an incredible moveset that matches all of his new games. Smash Brothers could be so much more with so much less, and I believe that if they go back to the drawing board with these movesets, that they will actually make a bunch of new fans of those Nintendo series themselves. This has the chance, and one and only chance honestly, to benefit the Nintendo Switch 2 for the better. Donkey Kong in his new model, having in Pauline even as a character, or someone that could be on Donkey Kong's shoulder or something like that, just incorporating more of those characters. King K. Rool has to be back in, of course, with his new art style. Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, add in Dixie, add in Funky, add in these characters from other games, and boom, pushing people to buy other games. If you put this character into Smash Brothers, if you put King K. Rool and then advertise him alongside of Bonanza, people will go bananas to get that game. They will want to know what is up with his moveset, because in Donkey Kong Bonanza, you can destroy anything. The whole thing is that you can pick up ground beneath you and throw it at your opponent. That would just translate so well to Smash Brothers in the future, having him rip up a piece of terrain right below him and sideswipe it to the left or to the right or right at your opponent, or throw it up into the ground or whatever. Have it to where he can have like a Minecraft Steve thing where he's not necessarily mining for different materials, but every time he goes down, he gets a different type. He can get that gold that will help explode in front of him, or he can just pick up a piece of dirt and it won't be as effective. There will all be the different types of terrains that he's going to pick up from these different smashing abilities are going to affect his moveset greatly, and that will be so much fun. Sakurai said once before that the hardest part about making Smash Brothers is the in-depth movesets. That's why everyone got so freaking excited for one new character and one new stage and a whole bunch of music, because that's all you really need to get people hyped, is one new character. The amount of characters in Ultimate was incredible. Everyone is Here was the best bargain you could possibly get in a video game, period. But that's not going to happen again. You can't just bring everyone back and more again. That's not going to be as effective. And I think that they know this. I think that's part of the reason that they structured the DLC the way it was. They had every single character be its own spectacle. And that's what this game needs to be. Instead of 80 plus characters, 90 plus characters with different skins, costumes, echoes, push it down to like 40. Or 50, like 30 to 50, somewhere in that range, where every single character is unique, has its own moveset, their art style matches their own games, and the game looks amazing. Put it all together in one big package to where only 30 to 50 characters looks way better than 80 characters of movesets we've seen for literal decades. Now sure, this is going to be a little bit harder for some of those characters that haven't gotten new games in a long time. Our mainstays like Captain Falcon, Lucas, Ness, even Kid Icarus to a certain extent. Like, these characters have not gotten new games, and they're not going to have a lot of new source material to go back to. I look you in the eye now and I say, who cares? Who cares? There are plenty of things from those games that they could go back and take from. I don't know a whole lot about Star Fox, to be honest with you. I've not played a Star Fox game, but I know that most of the time you are inside of a ship and you're flying around, and that's kind of what Star Fox has always been. So for Star Fox and Smash Brothers, do that. Put him in a ship. Be the first ever Smash Brothers character that doesn't necessarily even have to land. Now, there has to be some limitations, I understand, but put him in a little ship. Have him be blasting around and have it not necessarily be the same type of size that it would be outside of that, but still, you can do it to where the ship is flying around and your side B is a laser or something like that. You can do a little barrel roll, have him go up and around the stage. That would be so chaotic, but so fun. That may be a horrible idea, to be honest, because I don't know how many people I would want to face who are really good at this character and that can't even have them land. Like, everyone is on the ground, like Ganon, for example, who can't even jump or do anything. You would have a pretty bad advantage in that. But there is something that they have to do to get everyone on the same page here and to get this game looking better than the others. Every new character that they put in, including characters like Inkling, always seem to represent their series way more than the initial characters from those rosters back in the N64. That is impossible. It is so bad to see. That needs to be different. That needs to change with this iteration of Smash Bros. 6. This isn't necessarily a new idea. I think most people are predicting this and talking about this as a possibility for the next game, and I really think that if they are going to incorporate those third-party characters and try to fill out that roster, they're just going to have all those characters have very similar or the same movesets. That's the best way to do that. That's the other alternative I could see there, is that they go back to their roots here with some of the main characters, get those 10 to 20 OG characters, a wholly new roster, a wholly new moveset, and then everyone from there on out, some of those newer characters like Steve or whatever, you're going to keep them be pretty much exact same from Smash Ultimate. Just tweak their movesets a little bit, buff them up, nerf them down a little bit, whatever you want to do, Sakurai, go ahead and do it. But if they really wanted to, they could just continue to add and add, but I just don't see that as a possibility. Ultimate felt like the roof. It felt like the cap. It felt like if they were to add any more, it would have exploded. You know, it's kind of bad when you look at a screen and it's like, oh my gosh, if you are a new player, who do I even start with? How do I even figure out who I like? You literally can't even play as all of these characters in a single sitting. So that's my idea for what those characters could look like and what Smash Brothers could be moving forward. Now let's talk a little bit more about what I discussed in the intro about when this game is going to be coming out. I initially made a video talking about this franchise and other franchises about when I thought each one was coming out on the Switch 2. But in those videos, I initially said that Smash Brothers was not coming to the Switch 2 until 2029. Then I went back and made another video and said 2028 at the absolute earliest, and that is still my opinion. 2028 is the absolute earliest that this game will release. Now, maybe in 2027, we see a trailer. We see this game on our Switch 2 screens or on a YouTube screen or whatever we're watching it on, and we just froth at the mouth at the idea of playing a brand new Smash for probably the first time in a decade. But in terms of when it releases, 2028 is the absolute earliest. Why? Kirby Air Riders is my big main argument. I know so many people have said that Smash is too big of a franchise for them to lay dormant for 10 plus years, but I would argue 3D Mario is the same argument. Like, that's the same thing you could say about that, and it's been 10 years by the time that game releases, because there's no way that they're going to reveal it and release it in the end of this year. So 2027 would be the earliest for 3D Mario as well. This is getting into a whole other topic of conversation, but I think that we need to start reevaluating when we think our games are coming out and how long they're going to take to develop. Nintendo doesn't have to do anything. Even though it's been so long for so many of these franchises, they're going to release what they want to release when they want to release it. No one would have thought that Pokemon Pokopia would come out and be a hit, would be an instant classic for so many people, and no one predicted that or assumed that a game like that would be here in the early part of the year. But it was, and it was something brand new. They're giving us hit after hit after hit in franchises and areas that we never would have anticipated. What that tells me is that the Switch 2 is stronger than ever, because all of these huge franchises are yet to even grace the console, and yet success is through the roof. Kirby Air Riders release was pretty fine, had a couple million sold, I believe, at least 1 million, and that game is over. They're not adding any DLC to it. Sakurai confirmed that. Why would he confirm that? Why would he go out of his way to say that? Well, one, he wanted to set expectations for people, but two, he knew in his own mind and heart that he was not going back to this game. Why? Why would he know that for a fact? Even though he wants to tell us and to make sure that we know this is a full package experience, he would only really say that if it was pertinent to him, if it was actually something he was considering and thinking about for what he was personally doing next. He took a break, made a YouTube channel, pumped out hundreds of videos, recorded them all, edited them all in a few months. Then over the course of a few years, he released them on his channel. The man is a workaholic. So of course, he's thinking in his head what he's going to do next, and he wanted to communicate to us what it was he was doing next, but obviously he can't tell us quite yet, especially working with a Nintendo studio like this. He is going to have to do something behind the scenes before he can tell us what's going on. So something is happening. He told us that basically nothing's happening with Kirby, and the only reason I believe he would do that is if something else is happening, and that something else is Smash. It just is. It has to be Smash. The only possibility of there being a Smash Brothers game, a Smash 6 on the Switch 2, is that if they gave it to a totally different studio and developers. Maybe that's what Koizumi has been working on. Maybe they decided to give the 3D platforming god of everything from Nintendo a actual play at this game, actual play at the franchise itself. I doubt it, but it could be a possibility. If they were to give it to other people, other developers, other younger staff members, perhaps this game is coming much sooner than we anticipate, and 2027 isn't all that far from the realm of possibility. I don't think that's the case. As long as Sakurai is not going to his grave, this man will make Smash Brothers games, and they will be delectably great. So I still hold fast to that, even with this news, if you want to call it that, even though he kind of told us that it was, but it wasn't, and he kind of stepped it back, but then he said it wasn't all that. So there is something going along. There's a lot of rumors and a lot of people saying, yeah, I heard 2027 as well. So something could be happening. I doubt it. 2028 at the earliest for this game's release. 2029 is honestly when I would expect to see it. So as disappointing as that may be, we have a lot to play right now. So many great games. I made a couple videos about that you can go watch. But before you do that, make sure you like today's video to let me know that you enjoyed it. Subscribe to join the channel and click that notification bell so you never miss one of my incredible videos, obviously. And also, make sure you join my membership program, just a couple bucks a month to help support the channel at large, and just make sure you get a couple cool perks for yourself. We had one member right now, Melinda Lesko. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel and supporting. So I know you were just so eager to watch another one of my videos, so make sure you click on the left side of your screen to see my video talking about how much I love the Switch 2, and click on the right side of your screen to see all of the different games that you can be playing and why the grifters have been lying to you about how there's nothing to play. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. You're a real one. Have a great day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.